Hello, everyone. Welcome to another. Well, it's not a Friday night feature tonight. It is, of course, a Thursday night feature or a throwback Thursday, but we are talking about the future. So let's just keep it very straightforward. We are here to talk about a preview of Bad Blood, which takes place this Saturday with a slightly earlier time, I believe, as well, 6 p.m. Eastern in the States, which I think, if my maths are correct, it's midnight in the UK it will take place on. And that's because this is the first time that a WWE and UFC premium live event / pay-per-view has taken place. So we actually have had WWE push things forward an hour. So yeah, it's going to be an hour earlier than usual. So we're going to get at least an earlier start for us in the UK, which is nice because any earlier time is always a great time. So we very much appreciate that, especially when it's in the UK and we get the normal start time of like 7 o'clock, but we can't have everything. It's just nice to have that extra hour. But I hope you're all okay. Yeah, we're coming in live on a Thursday instead of a Friday, which is why I'm flying solo tonight. Some of the lads were trying to make it, but I don't think schedule's quite worked out. So you've got me to go through the Bad Blood pay-per-view or premium live event, whatever your poison is, and we're going to go through it fairly quickly. It's again WWE have got into this habit now of nice short cards. It's another 5-match card unless they add any on SmackDown, but SmackDown looks stacked as well. So they're doing this thing of kind of bookmarking the weekly shows, as it were, before premium live events, and making them more of a spectacle. We've got the ladder match, a triple threat tag team title ladder match tomorrow. Of course, the Bloodline is going to be defending their titles against DIY and against Street Profits. You've got the return of AJ Styles in there as well. You've got Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton as well. So plenty to look forward to on SmackDown tomorrow night as well. But I can announce there will be a watch-along stream on Gimme a Hell Yeah with Mr. Dan Hargreaves on Saturday night. So if you do want some company while you're watching it and you want to listen to the dulcet tones of Dan, and who wouldn't share some snacks with him, etc., get yourself tuned in and make sure you hit that notification bell, get following along, hit the subscribe button for both Wrestling Royalty and Gimme a Hell Yeah, and you can watch that along with Dan. So that would be a great way to spend a Saturday night into Sunday morning, and yeah, get yourself tuned in for it. But we are here today to go through the card. I'm here to preview it as always, and it's the return of Bad Blood. So I did say in the description, if you are watching along, let us know what your thoughts are on the card. Let us know as we're going through what your predictions are. Who do you think is going to come out on top? Do you think we're going to finally bring an end to some of these long-running feuds and rivalries? Because it's been a bit too long, in my opinion. So we'll go through that as we get there. But let me know in the comments. I'll read the best ones out as always. Make this a conversation between you guys. That's what we're here to do, is just to share opinions, thoughts, etc. So I want to hear yours. I can see our trusty moderator Mark has been in already, and he's been doing some sleuthing across the social media channels, and says so right now the plan is Hell in a Cell is going to open with Bloodline versus OTC and Cody main eventing. I'm going to be honest, this is leading to a Rock return. We'll put that in the on the back burner until we get to that one. I know a lot of the kind of thoughts were that potentially the Hell in a Cell match was going to main event, i.e., close the show. I have got that down last because I personally thought it would be, but it makes sense if there was to be a return. But as Mark said, maybe there's a bit of a twist, and we're going to get someone like The Rock come back. Maybe it might be Jimmy Uso. We'll get there. Elimination Chambers heading to the UK in March 2025 ahead of Mania 41. Cities that are a favourite are Birmingham and Manchester. Again, I'd imagine just wait until it's completely confirmed before that's taken with anything but a pinch of salt at the moment. But there's obviously some people who have good sources in terms of where places are being booked out. There's also plans for Crown Jewel, and that's going to be revealed at Bad Blood. He said, folks, polls will be back Saturday. He's modding 2 different channels at the same time, so he's having to stick to one account. That's fair enough, Mark. We appreciate the work that you're doing anyway. But yeah, if you are in tonight, just drop us a comment. Make sure it's clean. Make sure it's non-political, etc. Just let us know your views on wrestling. That's what we're here to talk about. So we're going to kick things off with the Women's Championship match between Nia Jax and Bayley. Excuse me if I feel like I've done this one before. Probably because I have. This was obviously the match that we had over at SummerSlam, and we've got basically a return or a secondary match between the two, where this time Nia Jax has the title instead. I think I said it on one of the shows last week. I feel like the main roster is kind of waning when it comes to the women's division, and they really need some new energy, some new blood, some new names, new faces, even if it's some of the older ones. Because right now we're kind of stuck in a bit of a holding pattern where it's, again, we've got Bayley and we've got Nia Jax, and then we've also got Tiffany Stratton, obviously has the Money in the Bank. People seem to be waiting for her to cash that in and fully going for it. Naomi's kind of been around the scene, but never really kind of pushed it all the way through and getting that title since she's been back. Hasn't been too long. Obviously, she came back at the Royal Rumble, but what she actually done since she's been back, and I think that may build into a storyline for her, is that sort of perennial loser that's kind of gonna try and get over it, as it were. So I think that they've got a plan for the way that Naomi's going, but like, do we see Nia Jax losing the title so quickly? Because there seems to be more money in letting Nia Jax be the one who Tiffany Stratton pins with the Money in the Bank, because it creates that bit of drama between them, and it would be a great moment for Tiffany Stratton. But it depends if WWE see any value in that sort of friendship and the way that the characters are for Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. But Bayley won her way here because they had that sort of awkward double finish, and then they had the match last week to determine out of Naomi and Bayley who was going to be moving on to face Nia Jax one-on-one. But at the end of the day, you can see the people who actually matter in this kind of rivalry. It's Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax, and how that relationship pans out. Because as long as Tiffany Stratton has the Money in the Bank, she is obviously a threat, and this friendship is going to falter at some point. So this is what everyone's looking forward to. We've got Rishab in, and he says, hey, I hope you're well, my friend. Thank you very much for joining us on this, a Thursday night instead of a Friday night. I'm just trying to confuse everyone. But good to have you in, my friend. Mark says, I think Charlotte beats Nia and then Tiff cashes in. Possibly. I think there's a lot of people obviously expecting at some point Charlotte's going to come back in the near future. And what better way to have her come back and maybe kind of like stake a claim is to come out at a premium live event. We are running out of premium live events before the end of the year, and then obviously we'll be into Rumble territory. That's the first weekend in February next year, so slightly later. But obviously the likes of Charlotte, the likes of Becky have still got to come back. We might see a couple of people move up from NXT. The NXT women's roster just seems to be getting more and more stacked. They obviously had their massive show. I thought it was a fantastic show they had to kick off their tenure on the CW. We've got Julia, who was obviously unsuccessful there in NXT. Roxanne Perez. We've got Cora Jade, who's returned. We've also got Stephanie Vasquez, who said she was going to face the winner of that match between Julia and Roxanne Perez. So she's going to be coming in. I think they also teased Delta as well, the Australian wrestler who's going to be coming in. It looks like a Halloween Havoc, if that promo is to be believed. So yeah, just lots and lots of women to stack up that roster, and eventually they're going to have to move some of them on. And I think SmackDown is the one. In fact, both could really do it, and we'll cover that a little bit more when we talk about Rhea. So I think Nia is going to win here. And I think it will just be an opportunity will present itself at some point for Tiffany to win, but I don't think it's here that she cashes in. I think they'll leave that to kind of simmer and then and kind of like build and build. So I think they'll keep it on for a little while. I don't see Bad Blood being the one that they shift the title at. Moving on, which is very strange because this doesn't look like Liv Morgan. I think that this image for some reason reminds me of Mandy Rose more than Liv Morgan. I don't know what's going on with the imagery here, but I do enjoy Dom in the background, just in a shark cage, pulling a random pose there. So yeah, we've got again another sort of long-standing rivalry, which this is one of the ones where I feel like it has to come to an end at some point very soon, and this is probably the one where it has to. We've got Liv Morgan, obviously, as the women's champion. They've really been building her like kind of into this new Judgment Day, the Sans, the Terror Twins. this relationship between her and Dom. I think Dom is, again, MVP the whole way through, which is a shame because really the shine should be on the title. And I think sometimes they do forget about that a little bit. So I do feel like at some point they've got to move Rhea away from Liv and let Liv be the person who has the title and be a champion. There's a lot of discourse going on social media about Rhea Ripley and her place in the women's division. And some people think she's done quite a lot of harm. I wouldn't go that far. I think it's really difficult because of the way she's been booked to equally book someone else as a threat to her or someone who could stand, or a peer who could stand toe to toe, because Liv's kind of playing that chicken shit character of like runs away and kind of takes opportunity shots, and is more kind of bothered about sticking up for Dom than she is for kind of like the title side of things. So they just need to be a little bit careful with this. And I do feel like if they were to put the belt back on Rhea, they're left with a roster of women who like they haven't built up to Rhea's standard, which I say, like, this is the problem that SmackDown's finding. Just actual worthy competitors are few and far between, because you've got the tag team champions who are probably the two stronger contenders and nowhere near it at the moment. So it's whether you can get Bianca Belair, into a kind of heel role and then she can go for one of the titles or something like that, or do you then wait for someone like Jordan Grace to come in who would actually be able to give a good run for people's money? But I just don't at the moment see who's the kind of viable person after this. I do think Liv is going to keep the title. I think they'll have some sort of shenanigans where Dom drops something to her from the cage or something like that, and he's still going to be a factor hanging above the ring. But it is entertaining. But I think the whole Judgment Day being part of like multiple segments throughout the night of Raw has run its course. A lot of the kind of same patterns are appearing in terms of a beatdown or back and forth on the microphone sort of thing, and it's time to bring that round to a bit of a close and let people do their own thing after this. They've got the tag team titles, they've got a women's title. Mark saying, speaking of Dom, he's the person expected to win the IC title from main event Jey Uso in the next few weeks. I mean, we've spoke about Dom a couple of times now in terms of like what his ceiling is and where he's kind of going, and I think he's doing such a good job with his character and kind of progressing the Judgment Day and then this between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, that he should be rewarded, whether it is in the next few weeks or whether it's a little bit like longer, like down or like further down the line. But him winning a title and then being this sort of like ultimate heel and slimy heel of constantly escaping when you think he's going to win, sort of like Kurt Angle used to be, where there was always people who you consider to be a bigger superstar, but he would somehow weasel his way out with the title. Or Chris Jericho was the same for ages, coming up against The Rock and Stone Cold and Undertaker. Yet somehow Chris Jericho survived with his belt time in and time out. So I think there is a great story to have him in with a title, and the IC title would be a great place to start. So yeah, I think if he were to get it, I'd expect like multi-man matches for it, where he can kind of like get a win out of nowhere, or like everyone else has kind of like knocked each other out and he crawls in for a win sort of thing. I think that's a great choice for a character going forward. But here, I think Liv will get the win. As I say, I think she'll be slipped something like out from the cage by Dom that'll get her the win. I don't think Rhea is going to really care. Like, her character isn't going to be hurt by that loss, especially if it's kind of a screwy finish. It could lead to a cage match or something in the future, or we see something completely different where someone else challenges Rhea and kind of puts her in a place sort of thing, and then we can see her go do her own thing for a little while, which I think is needed. Mark said, keep in mind, Finn and JD have held the tag titles for 101 days and only defended it once. It was against the New Day. I'm enjoying what's going on with the New Day as well. Like Xavier Woods kind of being, I guess, almost like tainted a little bit by Karrion Kross, and like kind of carrying that. And he's kind of, Kross has turned into this corruptor style character. I know Dom's very interested, and he put out a thing on social media and said, that potentially would he do a series on Karrion Kross, because I think his character is right up his street and similar to the Wyatt Six. It's kind of gives you that sort of alternative horror gothic sort of style. But yeah, watch this space. Again, another reason why to hit that subscribe button. Carrying on with the Judgment Day, we've got Finn Balor versus Damian Priest in a one-on-one match. Again, I just kind of feel like this has to be the end of it. This is one of those ones who I think there's 3 or 4 matches out of 5 that really has to finish. Like they have to kind of look, what is the next one that you can bring on to, you know, up and onto a premium live event, because there's loads of storylines that have been bubbling under, and they just haven't really got a big enough platform to push them onto. Bearing in mind, Gunther versus Sammy isn't on this card, and that's a world title that's not on the card. So Cody's not defending his title, so both the men's world titles are not on this card. Once again, the tag team titles not on the card. The women's tag team champions are having to host. They couldn't even get on the card either. There's a lot of discussion about, you know, representation on premium live events, and when was the last time a black man won in a singles match on a premium live event? WWE apparently aware of this discussion that's going on, and they said they're going to try and do better. But you know, there is a lot of talent that is on the roster at the moment, and they just need to find ways to be able to have new and fresh rivalries and matches that do appear on premium live events and that don't get stuck on Raw and SmackDown, because it's great to boost them, but if you want fans to care about it, we've kind of been conditioned to know that the ones that we need to pay attention to are the matches that are on premium live events. So if you're not on a premium live event, it feels almost secondary straight away. So, you know, I want to see the IC title and I want to see the United States title back on premium live events. And this is part of the problem, I guess, of having very short cards, like 5-match cards. Not everyone can get on it. But if that's the case, they also need to find a way to rotate out and make a bigger deal, because I think I would have rather have seen the triple threat match for the tag team titles on this card than Nia Jax and Bayley. They could have swapped those around and had it on SmackDown. Just me, maybe. But yeah, let me know, like, what other kind of rivalries and matches would you have wanted to see on this card? So this is where it gets a bit interesting, I guess. From Mark was saying the WrestleVotes are the ones who have kind of been spreading the news that this is going to be the match that headlines the night. Obviously, we'll wait and see. It could well be. There's a couple of reasons why I thought the Hell in a Cell might, and we'll go through that after this. But we're going to see the return of Roman Reigns into action, and not just kind of like an appearance, where he's going to be tag teaming with Cody Rhodes against this new bloodline of Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. Yeah, I just think it's a really interesting match to have a Bad Blood. Obviously, Cody's got that link to Atlanta. They had that really cool cinematic face-to-face in, was it Georgia Tech? And their stadium, their football stadium. That was really well done. And just kind of like seeing Roman back on TV, you know, makes it a bigger deal. The one thing I think it also showed up a little bit, though, was why is it taken Roman to come back for Cody to get a little bit more heat behind him? Like, I get occasionally we'll have these two people that seem to be locked forever, and we've gone through it before, like Stone Cold and The Rock will always be kind of doing as well. But I just, like, I need them to push creative in the creative vehicle behind Cody and find him someone else to be able to have as a dance partner, because you can't wait for Roman to come back on his limited schedule. And for people to care, you need to get us to care about him otherwise. And I think he's been let down in that respect. I don't think anything he's done. I think he's had some great matches, but when you put him with Solo Sikoa, who, with all due respect, just doesn't have that kind of that aura, that sort of finesse and everything else that comes with it, I don't think he's there yet. He's not got that star power. Even Jacob Fatu looks to me and feels more like a star and more of a threat than Solo has. And that's an issue. And that's something they need to kind of sort out. And it's great to have Roman back, but it also shines a light heavily on why does it take this long for us to care again. So, yeah, the WWE have always told this story. It's always been can they coexist, these two mortal enemies? And Roman coming back, the original tribal chief being back, having to team up with the guy who took his title off of him. Can they coexist on the night? If what Mark and WrestleVotes is kind of saying is true, and this goes on last, and The Rock comes back, I think that Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu get the win. I think for drama or dramatic purposes, I think Jacob Fatu should be the one who gets the pin, because it builds his star, and people will be like, oh, okay, like he's got a win over Cody, or he's got a win over Roman. That's a huge thing for them. So I would love to see Jacob Fatu get the pin ultimately. But if it's The Rock who kind of comes back and pushes that narrative, and he's kind of like the ultimate tribal chief that Solo's been answering to the whole time, then we're cooking. Then we're getting somewhere. We're going to get a little bit more of like what we've been hoping for, which is going to lead ultimately to Roman versus The Rock. I think WrestleMania next year. I just think it's too big an opportunity to have it somewhere like Vegas. You're not going to get too many more chances, both for Roman and The Rock. More so The Rock. He can't keep going. But yeah, if Roman is to lose, have The Rock be the one who costs him. Mark says, I think they will go full Rikishi on Solo and change the head heel in it to The Rock. Possibly. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't even be against like Rikishi coming back and doing like a little bit. Like at the end of the day, he is his dad, and like we haven't even seen him do too much with Usos in the past. But we've obviously still got people like Jimmy to come back, and we're not 100% sure on what's going on. So we'll wait and see. But it does feel like something has to happen in this one here. But it would be great to have Roman back, and I think the story that they'll tell is quite a long match where Cody and Roman won't be on the same page, and Cody will get a lot of beatdowns, and Roman will kind of be there for the hot tag, as it were. So on to the last match of the night. We've got Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk in a Hell in a Cell match. It's 20 years since the last Bad Blood, and that night was actually was headlined by a Hell in a Cell match between Triple H and Shawn Michaels. That's one of the reasons why I thought personally this would be the main event. I think it'd be sort of like foreshadowing. It's just like a sort of epic rivalry that's been going on. And obviously this is the kind of rubber match, as it were, between the two of them. And they've been promising quite big things, like in terms of they've said, you're going to bleed to each other. I'm going to make you bleed. It's called Bad Blood. Are we going to see the return of red? So are we going to see some color in the match? I 100% expect it. I think they will. I'd be very surprised if they don't, because then it kind of makes out that they're liars and then whatever. And I kind of feel like visually, like the CM Punk sort of face pouring with blood. We've seen it in AEW, we've seen it in WWE in the past, and I just think we're going to see something big and special here. They've had the kind of the build up to it. A lot of people were a bit like, oh, how are you supposed to like kind of having this epic rivalry by touching the turnbuckles? I think it was always building to this point. And the fact that they've had a sort of one-on-one match, yes, it had a special referee, but as we went through at the time, I think that was just to protect CM Punk. We built it into another stipulation, and now this is how Hell in a Cell always should be. It should be the blow-off. It should be the one that when you absolutely can't stand your opponent, this is the only place you possibly can go. So it's good to see Hell in a Cell used properly and sparingly. I don't need to see 3 Hell in a Cell matches in a night. In previous times when the premium live event's been called Hell in a Cell, that's what we've had. And I think it's kind of taken a little bit of shine off it. So I'm glad it's kind of getting its time. And that's why I kind of want it to main event, because I think if you are going to build it this much, and there's so much heat behind this rivalry in particular, this should be the one. I think this has got a bigger heat behind it than Roman and Cody's match does personally, but maybe that's just me. But let me know, do you want to see Hell in a Cell in this match main event, or would you prefer to see the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes versus the New Bloodline main event, the premium live event? So falling all over my words there. See, Evan is in, said hello, or said hi, and how's your day? Yeah, very good. It's a Thursday, so we're hurtling towards the weekend, which is always a great thing, and especially when there's a premium live event on as well. But Mark's all over that too. But it's good to have you in, Evan. Thank you very much for joining us in. So where do we start with this one in terms of like predicting it? I would be very surprised if it's not CM Punk who is the man left standing or having his arm raised at the end of the night or whenever it happens. I just can't see CM Punk taking a loss here because where would he go from there? Drew can quite easily kind of have someone laugh at him in the back and then start a new rivalry that quickly. I think if you're going to move into like CM Punk into the main event and onto other things, he needs to have some credibility with these fans who maybe didn't see him a decade ago. Why should you care? I think this is the one where you've got to make people go, all right, CM Punk is a big deal. How could I miss the comment from Tom, by the way? He says, "What's up, dude?" And asks how we are as well. I'm really good, my friend. Really good. And if you aren't already following Tom Talks Rubbish and subscribing to his channel, Tom does some great interviews with all sorts of individuals from the wrestling media side, so you can kind of peek behind the curtain and kind of find out a little bit more about the people who are behind the screen or behind the writing that you are so used to seeing by now. He does a fantastic job, so make sure you are subscribed to him. Yeah, I do feel like, I know we spoke about it in the last couple of weeks, that Mark's kind of added there that there should have been a stipulation whoever loses leaves Raw. I do feel like that should have something like that, or they should have had a contract signing in the cell like on this last week where it said after this you're done. Like there's no more. We're not going to carry this on, and that should have come, from the top. And it should have been a case of, I'm not having you guys like knocking each other out and going in ambulances to the local medical facility. You should have to have signed a contract that both agree, no matter who the winner is, that's it. It's done. No more. And we move on. You both move on. You see separate things in the future. To me, it would have just made more sense as to how they move on from this, because how can you go from such a hatred thing and a heated rivalry to whatever comes next? Like, there has to be a reason why you would want to go on to the next thing and the other one's not going to get involved. So I just feel like they've missed a trick, maybe just in terms of a real tangible thing that they could have used and fallen back on to people for stop people going, why are they moved on? Mark says this story should have had Triple H involved and say the board is panicking. This needs to end. Yeah, but they could have done that with Pierce as well. Like Adam Pierce, he could have been the one who just said, "No, I can't handle you guys just constantly like busting things up." He's lost control, and like this starts with you guys, and kind of putting an end to this. We've had obviously the monster battle and stuff like that. There's kind of that baked in thing of like people saying Nick Aldis can control his stuff on SmackDown just by being there, but you guys, you can't do anything on Raw to keep the peace. So I just feel like, Pierce should have been stepping up and kind of been the one who led this, like how we get out with this at the end, because you need an exit strategy as well. But the match itself, I expect there to be fireworks. I do think they'll just absolutely go each other. I expect it to be quite a long match. And I don't think we'll see any like crazy spills off the top or anything like that. I don't think either man's in it to do that. I'd be shocked if someone, who's had as many injuries in the last few years as CM Punk would ever agree to that. And I don't think Drew's in the business of taking, he's a big guy. I don't think you necessarily need that. It's not their style. These guys are ones that don't want to escape from each other. They just want to tear each other apart. So if you're going into this match thinking that you might see, a big spill off the side or the top, I would think again, maybe off the side, as they're both kind of beating each other around. But I think it's more likely that you'll just see lots of kind of weapons, brutality throughout. I'd still be shocked if this isn't the one that closes it, because if there is going to be blood, yes, they can change the mats out and stuff like that. I just think it's kind of like, how do you then get the crowd invested in anything else that's to come afterwards? This opening would really like screw with the pacing. I'm just a little bit kind of worried that if this goes on first, how do you follow on from something that's going to be as brutal as this has been kind of promised? So definitely one to keep an eye on. I think it'd be better than the bull rope match or whatever whatever it was called. I just think they'll kind of make sure it goes up to the next level. So Watch this space. I think it's going to be a good pay-per-view. I think there's a couple of matches where, unfortunately, the likes of Bayley, Nia Jax will be on second when the crowd is kind of like catching its breath from one of the bigger matches. And unfortunately, they don't deserve that necessarily. And that's why I think if you wanted kind of this huge pay-per-view, like premium live event, sticking a ladder match on would have been such a better idea and really making it kind of like this sort of extreme thing. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. But that's it, because these are really short and sweet. There is only 5 matches. They obviously are kind of like focusing in on and giving a lot of time to the matches that are on the premium live events, which again I expect to be the case. Will we see any returns? Let me know in the comments. Obviously, Charlotte's name has been mentioned. Will we see anyone else? Will that be the way that it goes? Like, will Damian Priest have someone else that he starts feuding with, etc.? So lots to look forward to, and you can watch along with Dan on Saturday. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so Dan can know you're in the house. Get that notification bell on. He'll be going live in terms of what time he'll be starting, so make sure you're tuned in. Make sure you got your snacks as well. He's a big snack man, and I'm sure you'll have fun if you do join him. But this has been our Friday night feature a day early. The reason why is because it's my wedding anniversary this week. So I'm going out with the missus tomorrow and going to go watch the new Joker film. So nice weekend planned. But I appreciate you for watching this. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure you still leave us your predictions in the chat and the comments. We do read through all of them and appreciate the heck out of it as well. So really love the fact that you've been here. But thank you very much. Thank you to our moderator, Mark, as well, who's been fantastic as always. We'll be back again next week. I'm sure Sam or one of the guys will be looking forward to hopefully joining me. I hope they look forward to it. But for now, this has been Gimme Hell Yeah. This has been Wrestling Royalty. I've been Andy. I'll see you later.